Please allow an old man in the twilight of his career a moment of nostalgia. Should we just run that again? You're meant to make sort of strong noises of surprise and shock and demurring noises and sad noises at that. So let's do that again. We're hello Honolulu again. Please allow an old man in the twilight of his career. Okay. A moment of nostalgia. I want to look back, not quite as far as this. Not quite as far as this. Whoa, there we are. Yeah, okay, that's enough. There are no more jokes for the whole of the talk. Which shows a plump little me with my two sisters on Bridlington Beach in about 1959. I don't want to go back quite as far as that, but I want to go back to the start of my teaching career in 1977. At the College of Richard Collier, a boys' grammar school undergoing a traumatic change to a coeducational sixth form college, the staff room was populated by men in academic gowns, smoking cigarettes and pipes. They would play chess in free periods. Middle managers, the man I, as a fresh young teacher, looked up to, went off at lunchtime to play squash. On Friday afternoons, the timetable was truncated. A brief staff meeting ended the week early so we could get away for the weekend. Each week, the last item was Ray Smith, the senior master, giving us the gardening tips for the weekend. Of course, not everything was rosy. The boys' grammar school, founded in the 1500s, was being forcibly converted because of government policy into a co-educational sixth form college, and the teachers largely could not cope. Their world was being turned upside down. They turned to drink. They retired early. They left the way clear for pushy upstarts like me to take over, claim the key positions of power, and effect a coup. My generation of teachers had no difficulty accepting this process of change. Indeed, we wanted it. We couldn't wait to throw our gowns away, ban smoking, and teach exciting and dynamic lessons to keen sixth form students of both sexes. The first lesson to draw from this, then, is for our school leavers. The post-school world you are entering is your world. It's not mine, it's not your teachers', it's not your parents' world, it's yours. You understand it much better than people 20 or even 10 years older than you. It created you, and you inhabit it more or less comfortably. I want to outline some of the key characteristics of the present-day educational world, remote as it is from the world of pipes and chess in the staff room. It's the world of IT, of course, where students, even of primary age, know more than their teachers. That's a commonplace remark taken for granted, but nonetheless unprecedented. It's the era of curriculum change. There was a head at Richard Collier's grammar school in the 19th century who remained in post as head for 44 years, during which time the history of the school reminds us there was no curricular change whatever. It ain't like that now. We're in the middle of steering our way through Mr. Gove's hurriedly enforced changes to A-level and GCSE and Key Stage 2, and doing our best for students condemned to be guinea pigs. Thirdly, it's the world of structural change in educational provision, the arrival of academies and free schools, and the decimating of local authorities. There might be some good in that, but in a city such as York, it seems bizarre to end local control of schools. What if each York school becomes a freestanding academy? Who will coordinate provision? If local authorities are replaced by academy chains, what allegiance will these chains owe to the city of York? They will be managed from elsewhere, from several elsewheres. thank goodness that the York Independent State School Partnership continues to demonstrate that beneficial collaboration between schools and across sectors is still possible. Fourthly, we are in the age of systems of accountability, of targets, and of data-driven analysis of schools and of students. These lead to simplistic judgments, outstanding, good, requiring improvement, on which hang the careers of school leaders as fragile as Premier League managers. It's the world of Progress 8, the latest attempt to make league tables more sophisticated and the curriculum more appropriate and broad, although many detrimental consequences are now being brought to light. It's a world where assessment is king, from primary school to A-levels, but where the exam boards are not fit for purpose and where target setting leads to a narrow, instrumentalist view of learning. As Ofsted sacked 1,200 inspectors last week because their work was not up to scratch, the credibility of all inspection judgments is clearly called into question. And finally, of course, it's a time when mental health issues are more prevalent among young people than ever before. I've been reading an article about American Ivy League universities. It's a review of a book called Excellent Sheep, The Miseducation of the American Elite and the Way to a Meaningful Life by William Dereshevich. The reviewer talks of the train wreck of contemporary higher education. Nothing better exemplifies the catastrophe than Barack Obama's plan to publish the average incomes earned by graduates from various colleges so parents and students can know which diplomas are worth the most in the marketplace and choose accordingly. In higher education, as in healthcare, market utility has become the sole criterion of worth. The idea of education as a search for meaning, self, and soul has been replaced by a commercial imperative, and the students are seen as customers. Universities, and I think the same case can be made for both individual schools and national education systems, are turning out excellent sheep. Compliant, utilitarian customers of education who will earn lots of money serving the prevalent economic agenda of so-called sustainable growth. Dereshevich points out how we have begun to think about education as bizarrely anti-intellectual in its emphasis on careerism, conventionality, problem solving, and the embrace of money as the measure of all things. It's no wonder then that some students don't enjoy this new world. The job at Goldman Sachs, set out as the optimum goal for students at Ivy League universities, might not actually be satisfying if you contemplate issues of soul, of meaning, of selfhood. The relentless emphasis on achievement, on outcomes, on values rather than worth, serves not to empower students, but to limit and damage them. So, the second lesson is this. You're used to this world, it's your world, but because you are comfortable in it, it's harder for you to see alternatives. Remember that the world doesn't have to be like this. The world might not actually be able to be like this for much longer. The world has been different before, and perhaps old people might have their useful wisdom. It's clear that something has gone wrong because we're being asked repeatedly to teach more to our students. Firstly, it was sex education. Clearly, parents couldn't cope with talking to their children about sex. Then it was citizenship, because presumably we're too detached from the offices of state or the institutions of civic life. Students have to learn about these things as an academic exercise, just as they learn a theory in physics or about Hitler or the Vikings in history. Now it's resilience and mindfulness, bolted onto the responsibilities of schools or embraced by schools themselves, despite what else they're required to do because they see a need for these qualities in their students. I'm not saying these characteristics or dispositions aren't needed. I'm arguing that the fabric of our society has become unbalanced or fractured if these things have to be taught at school. However well we do that, it is hard to see it as authentic. I began my teaching career in 1977, fired with enthusiasm. I hope I don't end it the same way. Boom. But I am still very much fired by the same enthusiasm. When I began teaching, I upset the senior management team. Oh no, it's come too soon. Get it back, get it back. Oh no. When I began teaching, I upset the senior management team by wearing red shoes. Some things don't change. I enjoyed teaching students things that they didn't know. Professor Dereshevich tells educators, if you are interested in students' long-term welfare, don't give them what they want. Don't be afraid to stand on your own authority, to assume you know something your students don't, which they might profit by learning. The very fact that he has to make this obvious point suggests the parlous state we are in. The easy equation of students with consumers confirms Dereshevich's conclusion that the schools finally don't care about learning at all, or about teaching. Teaching, he says, is not an engineering problem. It isn't a question of transferring a certain quantity of information from one brain to another, implicitly challenging the current fashion of online education. On the contrary, educate means lead forth. A teacher's job is to lead forth the powers that lie asleep within her students. A teacher awakens. A teacher inspires. I hope that we can recognise in Bootham a school which holds the higher purpose of education dear to its ambitions and its practice. And we look forward to the head reeve's presentation in a moment when this will be illustrated in full and in colour. At Bootham, we challenge our students not just to answer the exam questions correctly, but to ask questions, big questions, about the world and its future. We recognise that how we relate to one another as members of the community is a vital life lesson. We offer to our students a set of values, themselves questioning, sceptical, provisional, which will carry them through their lives as reference points and as scaffolding to support them in the tough times. We get students out of the classroom to enlarge their learning. And while they are in the classroom, our teachers enthuse and inspire with the freedom to teach how they want, without imposed formulaic lesson plans. We offer our students opportunities for sport, music making, drama, volunteering, debating, competitions, mentoring, listening to old people talking, through which they can learn about their futures as global citizens. We don't smoke in the staff room anymore, thank goodness. Squash is no longer the sport of choice for middle managers. Perhaps we do properly regret the passing of spare time in a teacher's day when chess could be played or conversations could be had during free periods. The old world, like the new, was a mix of good and bad. But as we enter another period of change at Bootham, I am certain that we will, as a school and as individuals, stand up to political orthodoxy, challenge received ideas, and celebrate the individuality, creativity, and genius of our students, such as you will be able to enjoy today. One last thing, and I don't know if we can carry this off now really, but one last thing. I don't know how many times I've had to point out that I'm not retiring until next summer. I've suffered so many valedictions that the real ones are going to be a disappointment. And everybody asks, what are you going to do when you retire? As if my being is defined by my present employment. It's not. I have lots of other interests and activities that I want to pursue. Nicola and I might be spending more time in Cornwall, where, as some of you know, my family's roots lie. My family comes from Perranporth, where Winston Graham, the author of the Poldark novels, was a neighbour. So I have a year to refresh my knowledge of tin mining and to sharpen my scythe.